This guide will cover your first hour in Terraria, only containing what you absolutely need to know to get started. Here's an overview of all the default controls for different platforms. Don't worry, you won't have to memorize this in one go, but it might be a good idea to take a screenshot now. Let's get started. Click on single player, then create a new character. Your character can be set as Journey, Classic, Medium Core, or Hardcore. When killed, Classic characters only drop coins, while Medium Core characters drop all of their items. Hardcore characters die permanently, will die a lot, so let's start with Classic. You can also customize your character's name and appearance. This won't affect your gameplay in any way, so design it how you like. Now you need to create a new world. Here you can choose your world size, difficulty, and evil biome. World size doesn't affect what biomes or structures appear in your world, and since small worlds are much easier to navigate, let's go with that. Expert and Master mode have better loot, but are also much harder. We'll stick with Classic mode. As for evil biomes, Corruption has worse loot but has easier monsters, while Crimson is the opposite. Corruption is easier, so let's choose that. You can always challenge yourself later with a larger world and a greater difficulty, so let's start with an easy one for now. Now that you have created your character and the world to play on, click play. Good job, you're in game. Let's roll through the basics. At the top left is your hotbar. Use your number keys to switch between items. The top right displays your health. Your character dies when it reaches 0. Below that is your mana. This is used for magic items you'll find later in the game. And beside that is your map. You can press M on your keyboard to expand it. More of your world will appear on your map as you explore. Now let's start playing the game. You move by pressing WASD on your keyboard and left joystick or D-pad if you're on a controller. To jump, you press the spacebar or this button on your controller. You would typically spawn near some trees. Switch to your axe, then point at the bottom of the tree. Then hold your attack button to cut down the tree. Keep doing this until you cut down 6 to 12 trees. Once done, press escape to open your inventory. This is where your character stores items. The bottom half of your screen is the crafting menu. Let's make our first item, the workbench. Click on the item, then either put the item in your inventory or place it directly in your world. To use a workbench, move close to it, then craft like you normally would. There are other types of crafting stations such as anvils and furnaces. These are used to craft other kinds of items, and some of them can be upgraded. Furnaces are used to turn ores into bars, while anvils are used to turn bars into equipment. Speaking of equipment, armor. The better armor you wear, the more defense you'll have, and thus you take less damage. Armor pieces often come in sets. Wearing a complete set will give you a set bonus. A set bonus gives you a bonus effect like increased damage or a chance not to consume ammo while shooting. There are 4 main types of weapons in this game. Melee weapons are short range and don't cost anything to use, but you risk taking more damage when you're up close. Ranged weapons consume ammo but are safer to use. Magic weapons consume mana, which recharges over time. And summoning weapons spawn creatures to fight alongside you. I suggest using ranged weapons for now. They're the easiest to use and they're great for beginners. Accessories can give the player stat boosts or special abilities, like how wings or rocket boots allow the player to fly. Of course, these are just a few of the items you'll discover in your journey. There are over 5,000 items in this game and I can't possibly cover each and every one of them. After all, that's for you to discover. You chopped some wood and made yourself a workbench. Now what? Clear a small area, about 10 to 15 blocks wide. This is where you'll be building your first house. Make a rectangle just large enough that around 8 of you can fit in there. Now, craft a table, a chair, a bunch of torches, 2 doors, and around 200 walls. Place down the table, chair, and doors you made, then start placing the walls. These walls prevent monsters from spawning inside your guide's house. That's right, this house is for your guide. There are other NPCs in this game and they too need housing like this one. However, that's for someone else to explain. Watch this video instead for a more in-depth explanation about NPCs. It's time you explore by yourself. After all, you're bound to find chests that contain valuable loot early on. Open them by pressing right click, then click on loot all to get all of the items inside, and maybe grab the chest too for storage. Same goes for pots, they break when attacked. If you find a weapon or other equipment, make use of it. Don't be afraid to replace your older stuff. Grab as much stuff as you can and make sure you return home right before it turns dark. You can mine these shiny ores and smelt them in your furnace. Note that you need to upgrade your pickaxe before you can mine certain ores. You can mine and explore at the same time. It's an efficient way to gather materials early on. Be careful though, there are many traps underground. While you're down there, you'll encounter heart-shaped rocks called life crystals. These permanently add 1 heart to your max health. Another way to get loot is fishing. It requires very little input and is the safest way to loot, though fishing can get boring or repetitive if grinding isn't what you're used to. That said, I recommend watching this video instead if you want to know more about it. Enemies sometimes drop items when they're defeated, and sometimes they drop something useful like a weapon or an accessory. Bosses are tougher enemies with more health and do way more damage to the player and NPCs. If you're able to defeat the boss, you'll be rewarded with a lot of useful stuff. Your first boss will probably be the Eye of Cthulhu. This has a 1 in 3 chance to spawn by itself at night if you have at least 10 hearts, 10 defense, and 4 NPCs in your world. Its item drops can be used to make better tools and armor. It's time you go play the game yourself. There's so much to discover in this game, you might just get sucked into it for hundreds of hours. Just as a hint, your next stop will be the dungeon or the jungle. Explore your world, you'll encounter one of them eventually. If you don't know what to do next, well, first talk to your guide, he knows a lot. But if that doesn't work for you, I've compiled a bunch of video tutorials waiting for you. In fact, many of them are right here in this playlist. Thanks for watching.